everybody doing out there? And welcome to today's episode of Just Start Walking and You'll Get There. I am your host, Carrie Braggs, and this is my guest in the studio today, Brother Sean Brasfield. Glad you can make it out today, my brother.
Glad to be out, my brother.
You know, now before we get into the show, I always like to give the background to tell everybody what the show is about. The show is about many people have ideas or dreams in their head about things they want to do, things they want to accomplish and everything, but sometimes they just look at what it takes from get from point A to point B, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. But the reality of it is sometimes you need to just start walking, and eventually you'll get there. You don't have to be walking too fast. No matter how slow you're moving, you're still moving, and moving with meaning. That's what I always like to tell people, move with meaning. And so as long as you're doing that, the process will start to come together more and more as you move forward. The plan will come together. So that's why on this show we like to encourage people to say, hey, let's just go. Let's just launch out, let's get to moving, and we'll figure some of it out as we go along instead of just sitting in that one spot until we figure it out. And so that's one of the things that I like about my guest here today, because he's done that in many areas. And so I want to encourage people today with his story, which is, well, he's on the show today for one thing in particular, but there's so many other things. I'll let him fill you in on that. But I'll just throw out a few things here. So, Brother Sean, you are married. You said in August it'll be 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
You have 3 children. You have a 6-year-old son, a 4-year-old daughter, and a 1-year-old son. And also, you have been in ministry since 2007. Okay, and so as I said earlier, that he's on the show today to talk about his book, Lights, Camera, Action, Success Strategies of a Resource Kit. So, but before we get to that, you know how it goes. We're not gonna give all the good stuff up front. So you just have to grab a seat, get you some popcorn. Get you a pad and a piece of paper, because I'm sure something will be said to give you an idea, and also to be able to write this information down at the end of the show. So just have a seat, but we're gonna take this way back, because the year now is 2018. And I think back to when me and you first met. I met you through my wife. You and my wife attended high school together.
Yes.
And I believe she saw you at Walmart one day, and well, hopefully I was there with her. Yes, I was there with her. Look at her. So, but yeah, we were there, and we connected because I was in the process of writing scripts and things for church plays, and you are an actor.
Yes.
Yeah, so before I finish with our story on how we met, just tell everybody at home, I guess, how you got into the acting and how all of that came together.
Well, I got into the acting because I had always had a big interest in performing, and the love for performing actually began with professional wrestling, of all things.
Okay. See, now I thought about that before we got together for the interview. I'm like, does he want me to let everybody know that he was a wrestler? So he put it out there. So yes, we'll go with this. So go ahead.
So I was wanting to be a professional wrestler. I was always shy growing up, of all things. I had a stutter, growing up, speech impediment. And I knew that if I wanted to perform and entertain, I had to get over that phobia, and I had to get over that speech impediment.
Okay.
And so I began to wrestle because that's what I wanted to do. And that fell through after so long time because I started to see all the politics involved, the locker room politics. And I knew that that wasn't in my character to go out there and injure someone for real to take their spot, because that's kind of how that can work sometimes.
Okay.
And then I just kind of started to that interest started to wane, and so I figured, well, let me go ahead and start doing some acting, because in college at Flow Valley, I was told that the theater acting could possibly help my speech impediment.
Okay.
And lo and behold, the more I did it, the more I overcame the speech impediment, and then the desire went from stage to wanting to do film and television, and that's kind of how I started out.
Okay. And so, I guess with the acting, what are some of the things that you've done over the years? I know that you worked with me on, I think, like maybe two plays at our church and everything, and I always do appreciate that because it's like it's one of those things. You were actually the professional, and everybody else, you know, they were participating. It's like, okay, could you take your cue from Brother Sean? He's in the business. You all need to sit at his feet and learn. No, I'm just joking. But you know, we had fun with it and everything. Yes. But I know you have gone on to do some things. I know you sent me some information maybe a few months ago. You were talking about a project you recently worked on.
Yeah, we had. I just wrapped up a couple of short films, and those wrapped up a couple of short films, and I'm in the process of filming 2 other projects. One is a film about Static Shock, with the black superhero kid.
Okay.
There used to be a cartoon on WB. I was largely ignorant to Static Shock, the superhero, but apparently the guys who were doing film with, they educated me about the whole character, and so I played Static Shock's father. And who he's a kid, he's really into the civil rights, the activism, and so my character is kind of going into campaigning for mayor, and so kind of involves that part of the story. It's a really, really good story, really well written, and so yeah, I've been doing that. I did a few short films here. I shot a film in Chicago last summer, and then I auditioned for Empire and Chicago PD and Chicago Fire. So it's been a process, and my acting coach, she flies in from LA every other month and works with me, and
wow, so you really doing it, I should say, on a professional level, to where, like you said, you have an acting coach, and you're auditioning for big shows that are out there. It's not just I guess a local thing and things like that. So so I did not know that. I did not know that things were on that level, and so.
And it's kind of funny also because I have to approach it, and I talk to my acting coach because she asked me what kind of things, what kind of projects I would be interested in, and I have to lay it out. I'm like, hey, I'm a Christian and man of God first,
right?
Minister of the gospel first, and I have to be very selective of the types of roles that I accept, because once it's on film and out there, it's out there forever. Right. And you know, the look that she gave me was like, okay, you're really gonna be marginalizing yourself, but I'm like, it's okay, because I serve a God who owns the cattle of 1,000 hills, and He could definitely throw me some projects that won't cause me to have to, compromise who I am and my stand. And so
and that's a big thing, and I appreciate the fact that you said that for our viewers at home, because standards and who you are within anything you do, that is very important. And I'm the same way, to where I'm very selective with the things I do or who I work with and everything, to see where their head and heart is. And it's no knock on anybody who does certain things, but just like they have a standard to say, hey, I'll do whatever comes before me, because this is what I want to do to get to the next level in the music or the films and everything. And so it's nothing wrong with somebody else saying, hey, this is where I draw the line and things like that. And I think people need to be mindful of that, because a lot of times they kind of separate them and be like, hey, I'm a Christian man over here, but when I'm in the film, it's whatever it goes. Right, I'm an actor, and that doesn't mean anything.
Yes, I've heard that a lot. Like, it's just acting, right? Not for me. It's
right. It's not just acting, because it's still, the situation is going on, and when people are being physical in films and things like that, that's still them in that film doing that. Right. Now they're going home to their spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend and things like that, but at the end of the day, they were just hugged up with this person and touching and feeling and all these things. So it's a reality to it, and people have to be mindful of that.
Yes.
And so I'm glad you said that, and I just want to just go in a little deeper.
Can't be like Pac-Man, just taking everything that
Right.
you put in front of you.
Right, because that's the thing, like you said, with God, that He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. Because, as you said, you could pass up on several projects that seem big to the world,
Mm-hmm.
and He can give you something over here to where people are like, oh, that's nothing.
Right.
And it could blow up bigger than all those things combined.
Right.
But the key thing is you're where you want to be and where you feel you need, or where you feel God has you.
Right.
And so
That's the important part.
yes, that's the very important part.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, gonna go kind of back and forth on some
So,
of these things within
Like a tapestry.
right, yeah, because I think back also to when we first met. You know, you were a young man, you were single, and you had a heart to, that you were focused on waiting on the right young lady, that you were focused on, just being mindful of what that looks like as a Christian man looking for a wife. And so I guess, how did that process go for you? Because as I was telling you earlier before we started filming, that back then I saw that, I saw you had that heart to please God and do it the right way, how it's laid out in Scripture. And me and my wife, we were always praying for you and everything within that to be like, hey, we hope he, is able to stand strong and go in the direction God has him going. So how did that process go to you getting to that point where you met and dated and married your wife?
For me, it was very hard, especially at that Walmart. Everything went like, everything goes there, and a lot of the females, they were very loose laced, and a few maybe 2 or 3 who I knew, who I was really cool with, when they learned that, wait a minute, this is impossible. This is like a unicorn with this young black man. He's
right.
a young guy, attractive guy, and he's a virgin. Unheard of.
Right.
And from my standpoint, I was like, and a lot of young, and so now that news started to get out like wildfire, amongst the other females, and then you got women coming at me like, hey, because I didn't have a car at that time, so I was catching a bus, like, hey, I know you just missed your 10 o'clock, you need to ride home. So I had learned in a roundabout way that from one of my guys, that he was like, man, you got these females, like, they got you as flavor of the month, like they got a target on you.
Right, yeah, it's a challenge.
Right.
Now,
And at 22 years old, I was like, what do you mean? I was largely ignorant. I was like, and naive. I was like, what do you mean I got a target? It's like, they trying to like get you.
Right, see who can get you.
Right, because
first.
they were like, ooh, I'm gonna have him hooked. He gonna be sprung. I was like, oh my God, like they was acting like dudes. Like,
exactly.
Are you serious? And so I had to take some of them up on the offers. I'm like, hey, I missed my bus, and that Walmart was at West Florissant in 270. I lived in Jennings off of Lillian, Jennings Station Road, Lillian, and there were a couple of times I had to walk home.
Wow.
So
that's
a long walk. And so a couple of them, and a few occasions, had to drop me off, and then some of them were like, oh, now I know where you live. And they're like text. This was like early text messaging, like when I still have to say, you still have the Nokia phone with like the green screen, and you only had one game, which was snakes.
Right.
So I would get text messages like, "Hey, can I come by?" I'm like, "Okay, sure." And I had one young lady. It was one incident where it was very tough. But she texted about 11 o'clock, like, "Hey, can I come by? I got this Flower Tree concert DVD." That's when Flower Tree first came out. And I was like, yeah, come over. And she came over with just scrub pants on, and she was like, let's get it in.
Right.
And I'm like, no. And so instead, I had just bought one of those blue NIV Bibles from Walmart. So I'm like, still learning. I'm like, I just felt the Lord say, give her this Bible. I was like, hey, take this Bible, like, you know. She wasn't feeling that. She took the Bible and she was like, yeah, I got the word, but I'm focused on you.
Right.
I'm like,
I ain't looking for the word
I'm
right
like,
now.
nah, I'm like, this is it. And so I cracked it open, read the scriptures, and she was like, so she had left eventually, you know, and then a few days later I get a text message saying, hey, I kind of lost interest in you. And I'm like, man. And
Praise the Lord.
Right. Well, see, at that time I was like,
right.
I'm like crushed. I'm like, really?
Right.
I mean, I was like hurting.
Right, because you didn't go along with what she was doing.
I mean, now granted, in my flesh, I wanted to just go, but I was like,
right.
I knew I wanted to please God more, you know? And I was like, if you're saying the access is easy, I'm like, who else then had you, you know? And so I was like, and after that incident, I was like, you know what? Because during that whole season, I was just dating, you know? And I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not gonna date anymore. I'm just gonna focus on my relationship with the Lord and just getting better, you know, finishing college, getting a job, all that kind of stuff. And after so long time, I started to go to church more because I sometimes I would go, sometimes I wouldn't because I didn't have a car and bus don't run on Sundays.
Right.
And then there were a couple of occasions where I put my church shoes in my backpack and I had rollerblades. And I put my rollerblades on, and I rollerbladed from my house in Jennings off Lillian all the way up to Bethesda, Bermuda Road. At Bethesda, I rollerblade in the heat. I rolled my church shirt up sleeve, and rollerblade to church. I got on the parking lot, took my rollerblades off, my church shoes back on, and went in the church and sat right in the back. I'm like, I know I'm hot and musty, but I'm just feet back here, back pew, and I'm gonna get the word, and I rollerblade right back home.
Right, and see, and I just want to interject here for a moment to see within this, sometimes we can't get where we're going because we're not willing to make sacrifices.
Yes.
You could have sat up and said, hey, I don't have a car, I don't have a ride, and that's a long distance, so, hey God, I would love to be here, but you sacrificed. You said, hey, I don't have a car, I don't have a ride, but I have these rollerblades. I got some wheels that'll get me there, and you did that.
Yes.
And like you said, you were dedicated to that. You're out in the heat, and you persevered through that because you wanted to grow in the Lord and have that relationship with the Lord. And what's sad about that is I think so many people miss those things because they aren't willing to make small sacrifices. Because, I'm not saying that that's small, but I'm saying that there is a small sacrifice compared to some of the bigger sacrifices that someone would need to make to be able to see God clearly. And so just that you made that, I've seen that over the years because I made certain sacrifices myself early on in my walk to ensure that I'm here and you're here right now to be having this conversation.
Right.
And I just want to encourage people at home to challenge yourself to just get over the hump.
Yes.
Like he said, he wanted to please God, he wanted to go to church, and so he rollerbladed to church. Now, what is it that God may have put on your heart and that may be stopping you from getting to that next level? Just persevere through it, push through it, stay encouraged, and watch what God will do on the other side of that. Right. And so that's just some food for thought there.
And then a few years after that rollerblading, and I started to very much commit myself to the Lord and focus, because I'm not a guy who grew up in the church. I didn't grow up in the church.
Right. Me
I grew up believing, I didn't grow up going to church.
Right.
And I let go of a high school relationship a short while before that. And then after a few years of me being devoted and people see me in church more, hey, you're doing this, doing that. And then at one particular incident, we had the occasion, our pastor, or my late pastor now, Bishop James Johnson, he was preaching at another church in O'Fallon, and some of the younger saints were going to all carpool to go and hear him at like 5 o'clock that evening. So I was one of the young saints who carpooled, who was asked to go. I was like, yeah, I would like to go here, Bishop. So we all carpool. And lo and behold, my future wife was also in that carpool.
See, I got to put that together.
Right. And so the running joke is, between my wife and I, is that apparently amongst the young ladies at the church, myself and my good friend of mine, Cottrell, we were a hot topic because we were the outside guys who came in,
Right.
you know, and so we were like different. So we were like really hungry for God. And so myself, my friend Cottrell, my future wife, and one of her friends at the time, we all carpooled together. And the running joke was, you went, I was talking to my wife, and like, you went because you heard I was going. That's why you came. So we had came, then we went to the service, we came back, and then we exchanged, we didn't exchange numbers at that point. Several months later, we had exchanged numbers at the Bible class because one of her, I think her little brother was graduating high school, and they wanted to get one of the young people to come to the graduation party at their house.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, I'll come. So we just exchanged numbers. I'm like, this is to keep, me posting when it is, or whatever have you. And again, the running joke was, you just wanted my phone number.
Right. Right. That's what it was.
Right. And so I went to the party. I got there fashionably late, trying to make an entrance and everything. And of course, you can't go to black people's house late and still expect to have food left.
Exactly.
So there was no more barbecue left. It was just a cooler full of best sodas. And so I was like, all right. And so we was like, all right, well, I'm gonna keep in touch. And I'm like, y'all owe me a barbecue, so we gonna stay in touch. So we kind of started texting more and kind of talking more, and it ended up being like, and several months later, her mom was, because they paid her cell phone, and she was like, why is there like $200 worth of text messaging bill on your bill? And she was like, man, we was texting that much? Like, I wasn't paying that much on my plan. I had like a free plan. So she was like, well, we just two saints fellowshipping the Lord. And so that's where the friendship kind of started first, and then we kind of started dating, and then the rest is history.
So how long did you all date before you got married?
We dated 2 years.
2 years. Okay.
Because I'm not one who believes like the one. There's the one.
Right.
I don't feel the Lord like I created you for this person way over here, and I'm the orchestrator of your life. I feel that the Lord gives us wisdom and knowledge and knowing what to look for in a mate, and saying, you know what, I could work with that. That's great. And I knew I loved my wife because I knew that she was serious about the Lord, just like I was.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was important.
And see, once again, teachable moment here,
Right.
because I always give my testimony of when before me and my wife got married, that there was a young lady I was dating, and she was not, I was going to church. I was at that stage where I'm growing in Christ, and I'm trying to learn what's going on, how's everything work. And so I was going to church, and I started dating a young lady, and she wasn't necessarily on board with that. I mean, she would go to church sometimes and everything, but I didn't see that she wanted to become a Christian.
Gotcha.
And so within that, it was, we ended up breaking up and everything, and it was, and God brought that back to me afterwards to let me know, hey, why are you trying to get somebody to come over here with you?
Make it work.
Right, because that's what people don't understand. When you have a relationship with someone who is not following God and you're trying to follow God, you're in the middle. It's a tug of war.
Right.
Either that person is going to pull you away, or either you're going to hold on to Christ. And unfortunately, she pulled me away. But when I came back to myself, then that was the thing. When I met my wife, I was sitting there, and I'm like, hey, if she isn't going to come over here and be with me and be with God, then it's a deal breaker, because I learned from that, and I was in that mindset that this has to be, like you say, a package deal, because this is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a man of God, so I need a woman of God, so we can both love God and move forward. And thankfully, my wife, she came aboard. She loves the Lord, and we love the Lord together. And so we're raising, you know, we have a Christian household and those things, and that is very important to being on one accord. You know, so I just want to point that out. He's got some nuggets of truth here. He's got some good stuff going on. So I just want to, you know, make sure everybody kind of focused in on that, because you look at what relationship are you in now and different things and where you are and where you're, you know, who you're dating, where they are in life. So you need to consider these things as you think about your future. So remember I told you earlier, have a pencil and pad. Right, where's your pencil? Write it down. Okay, this is good stuff. Yeah. So
and also, like, right before I went into that season where I was like, I'm not gonna date. My late pastor, Bishop Johnson, I called him behind the young lady saying, I'm just not interested, you know. And I told him, like, Bishop, hey, this is what happened. She was over, and my flesh rose up because we're human.
right.
And the thing that he told me was when I made the decision, you know what, I'm gonna stop dating. He said, son, have you ever had Kool-Aid? I said, yeah.
Am I black?
Right. He was like,
we gonna drink some Kool-Aid.
He said, have you had Kool-Aid, son? I said, yes, sir. He said, there are 3 ingredients that go into Kool-Aid. And he sat back in his chair and said, you have your water, you have your Kool-Aid, and you have your sugar. He's like, as long as those 3 elements stay separate, son, you don't have Kool-Aid. He said, when you put yourself in an atmosphere where those 3 ingredients come together and make Kool-Aid, then you're in trouble. And he was alluding to the young lady coming over with just her scrub pants on. He said, son, you put yourself in isolation with the young lady. The devil could have had you to put those elements together and make Kool-Aid. He said, don't put yourself in that environment again that you can make Kool-Aid.
Right.
And I've used that.
And that's simple and profound.
It's simple yet profound, right?
Now I'm going to use that.
Use it.
And I'm saying it right here live on the show, so he can't come back later and say, "Hey, that was my story." I'm like, I told you I was going to use it.
And I've used that in talking to other young men and young ladies. I'm like, wow, because it's simple.
Right, and that's what they need. Right, they need something simple that they can relate to. And that always takes me back to Jesus in the Bible when he told parables.
Yes.
That's how my mindset always is. He's like, hey, I'm going to tell you something that you're familiar with. So now, right, and so to explain the spiritual to where they can say, I get it. I get it.
Yes.
So now, with marriage, were you married before you were called to the ministry or after you were called to the ministry?
I was called into ministry actually before I got married. And I knew I was called to ministry because I had a dream. And in this dream, I was preaching. And I had this grade preaching robe on, and I was preaching. And then another dream, not long after that, I was in like the courtyard of a mall, you know, like where like the food court area would be.
Right.
And there was levels of the mall that was going up, and there were people there standing around listening to me. And I was preaching, I was saying something, then I got quiet. And then when I opened my mouth again to speak, it was no longer my voice, it was Bishop Johnson's voice. And I was like, okay, Lord, and I was afraid to answer the call. And I was like, Lord, because if this is what you want me to do, settle it in my spirit and remove the fear. And I went and talked to Bishop Johnson, and I said, Bishop, I'm afraid. He said, son, go back and talk to the Lord. And if it's of the Lord, he'll remove the fear and he'll settle in your spirit. Went back, prayed a few weeks, went back, talked to Bishop. I said, Bishop, God removed the fear. And he settled in my mind, this is what he wanted me to do. He said, all right, son. So yeah, so I was called shortly before I got married. I was called a year and a few months in ministry before I got married.
So what did your future wife think about that when you told her about it?
I think she was very much okay with it. Because she had dated only one other person before me, and he was in the church, but he wasn't in the church. You know?
Right.
He was there.
Right.
He was one of those ones who, like, the church wasn't in him. He was just in the church.
Right, there you go.
You know?
There you go.
And so she was like, this is a jackpot. Like, you're focused, young man. You're trying to be on fire for God, and now He's calling you to ministry. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's like, what better can I ask for? Because after she got out of that relationship, she was desiring someone more serious about the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Lord gave her that, and then some.
Right, because you can't get any more serious about the Lord
Right.
than being in the ministry.
Right.
Right. And I like the fact that you took the time, you had the dream, you talked with your pastor about it, you prayed about it, you went back seeking the Lord, and then you came back talking to your pastor. Because I always tell people, you have to really make sure that that's God speaking to you, and that it's not just, we're not being led away by our own desires. And so I like the fact that you took the time to bring it to your pastor and bring it before the Lord again.
And I was still nervous, even like as I was going into it. And I talked to him again. I was like, "Is it Satan's job to keep attacking you with fear?"
Oh yeah.
He said yes. He said, and the devil is on his job all the time.
Yeah.
And many people also think that just because you're calling the ministry, and I was affected with this mindset earlier on in the call. So again, I was ignorant. I thought it was all about, hey, you're going to preach everywhere I am. It's like,
right.
And he's like, no, it ain't all. It's not about self-preservation. This thing is, anybody who jumps in at the call of ministry, I question their true motive.
Ooh. Now that's, that brings a new element to it, because with you just saying that and thinking about what you're saying about how you answered your call, and I think back to how I answered my call, you're right, because it's always a hesitation, and as you see in the Bible with many of the ones who got called to be leaders, it was always I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not worthy to be a leader. I'm not a soldier. I can't do this, and show me this, and and are you sure, guys? So yeah. So if somebody get tapped, and it's like go, like I'm going. It's like, I agree with that. That does make sense, because you are. You should be questioning that and making sure that it is that way. So yeah, I never looked at it on that level.
Never jumped. Because many people don't understand, because I was affected by the glory of the position, and not so much the story that came with it. Exactly. And oftentimes, the life of ministry is a lonely call, because you just see them in a pulpit or whatever doing their thing, but you don't see the lonely nights where even their spouses don't understand really what we're going through, and how we have to prepare a message or live the life, or how we have to be driven on our knees. And sometimes, because God doesn't enlighten them on everything yet, they're a part of the call, but it's still, the mantle is on us. You know? So it's still a heavy thing, and also knowing that we're going to be judged more strict than others because of the mantle and the calling in our life. Right.
And that's so true, and that's why it's one of those things to where we truly have to take our calling serious, because I know myself, there are certain things that God has put on my heart that, some of these to go forth on some of these hot button issues and topics I heard that you see everybody is afraid to discuss, and all these other things, even the church, but He put them at my feet. And, and it's like, I have to remind myself of, the scripture where we're all going to stand before Him one day. And so it's like, do I stand before God and say, hey, God, I know you wanted me to go forth on that message, but did you see how hostile the public was? And
you see how aroused people are?
Right, but you have to look at the scripture as well, where He say, hey, don't be afraid of the ones who can kill the body.
Right.
Be afraid of the one who can kill the body and throw the soul into hell. And so it's like He let you know, I'm a little bit more powerful than them. And after death, you still got to reckon with me. You still got to settle accounts with me. And so my mindset is, okay, thy will be done. As Paul said, you know, to live is Christ, to die is gain. Letting me know I'm going to live for Christ, and if I die doing it, I'm going to heaven. So how can I lose?
Right.
You know, it's a win-win situation. And so it is something for us to be mindful of.
And you can't be afraid of the persecution.
Right.
I've been called out on the floor many times on social media for making a stand for Christ. And I'm like, and I used to back down from it afterwards because I would get so much flack. But I was like, Lord, I can't back. I'm like, Lord, give me holy boldness to stand.
Mm-hmm.
Because and that's when the Lord kind of helped me understand. There's biblical Christianity versus secular Christianity nowadays. Mm-hmm. And the secular Christianity is everything goes, I can do what I want, and I'm still going to heaven.
Right. Yeah. And
Good luck with that one.
Right. And I'm glad you said secular Christianity, to let it be known. This is not people outside of the church. This is, you know, people in the church who, you know, kind of make it up as they go along. Right. And those things, as you said, you know, secular Christianity, we have to make sure that we are about God's business, how the word says we should be.
And stop backing down.
Right.
Because the biblical Christianity, we are the minority.
Right. And it makes you say, okay, where do I draw the line? Where is God calling me to stay? And so that kind of leads me to your book, as we discussed that earlier on. So I guess kind of explain to the people at home what the mindset is within that, because you know success strategies of a resource kit.
So kid.
Oh,
K-I-D,
kid.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said that wrong. Kid. Because I want everybody like, I couldn't find the kid. Right. The resourceful kid. Yes, we corrected it here.
Resource kid, right.
Okay, so sorry about that.
That's cool. But my thing is the thought behind the book was just like, again, because my acting background, I wanted to come from that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost parable-like. Coming from an acting standpoint, I use the backdrop of my chapters or the acting process, but I'm giving just applicable teachings and strategies, rather, to redefine what success is. Because for many of us and many young people, success to them means fame and fortune.
Right.
And it's like, I'm combating and saying, no, it's not limited to fame and fortune. The scope is a lot more broad than that.
Right.
So lights, camera, action is, for me, it's a philosophy. Lights, we're all born in the dark to our purpose and our potential. So at some point, someone has to speak a word of light to us to get us to like buy into, wow, this person sees something in me. Because oftentimes, whatever your potential is, whatever your gift is, whatever your those things are God put in you, He will call someone, bring someone along to enlighten you with what that is. Yeah. They'll see it in you first, and then you buy into it.
Right.
You know, so that's the lights part of it. And then the camera is like, whether you believe it or not, people are watching you. People are watching what you do, what you say, your actions, all that stuff. They're watching whether you think they are or not. They're watching. And not only are they watching literally, but these devices here, when we're posting video, we're like, oh, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat.
All of it.
Right. We're putting content out there, and we're showing the world at large. So my question is, what are you showing the world when the cameras come on? When the cameras literally come on, and when the cameras of people's eyes come on.
Right.
And there's one particular camera that's always watching and never shuts off. Heaven's eye. It's always watching. So what are you showing the world around you? And what are you showing when there's no one else around? And then the action part is, whatever your defined success is, you gotta have to roll up your sleeves and put in the work that it's going to take to accomplish or to achieve whatever that success is you have for your life. And the success strategies of a resource kid, I was the kid growing up in school, in the school system, that they said, you will never really need much of anything because you have a learning disability. You have a deficiency in your learning. And as I grew older, I look back and I'm like, no, I didn't have a learning disability. I had a learning style that was altogether different then no teacher or system structure
Right,
wanted
right.
to learn how to teach me,
Exactly.
come at me with that style of learning that that was conducive to me, because I was a visual learner. I was not auditory. You couldn't just tell me a bunch of stuff and lecture and talk to me and then expect me to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So the kid that people counted out, many of you out there, people have counted you out in life. They said you would never do anything. And even in school or in life, they said you would never do anything. But I'm here to tell you that this kid that people counted out ended up being a guy, growing up to be a guy, not only calling in ministry, did a lot of great exploits in acting, but I'm also reading a book and I'm making great exploits just in life, period. And this is my success, doing impactful things and reaching back, not to give a handout, but a hand up.
Right.
Let me give you the resources to get on the right track to achieve your success.
Okay, I like that, and that's so very important what you said. Not a handout, a hand up, because within this entitlement mentality,
Yes.
this generation has, they need to understand it's not my job to give you a handout. It's not my job to give you things. My job is to show you how to fend for yourself.
Yes.
That's what it is. And so it's like, with me, like I learned a lot of the different things as far as like doing the things with the podcast and finding out about different ways to bring my content to the world through watching people on YouTube who put in the work. And I was telling my son that earlier. I'm like, you have to be willing to put in work. I'm like, I've sat up and watched videos that were, 45 minutes, an hour long. And to me, it was no big deal because they know something I don't know.
And
it's equipping me to get to the next level. Right. So why would I go over here and try to reinvent the wheel or make the wheel myself and figure it out, what all elements go into it, when somebody's sitting up saying, hey, if you want to make the wheel, this is how you do it right here. You take this, you attach it to that, and I'm good at following directions and instructions.
Exactly.
And so I'm like, okay, so I sat there at their feet and I learned. And so I look at it like with this book, this should be one of those things, like you say, for somebody, all you have to do is sit down and read it. It's giving you what you need to get to the next level.
And it's like, I heard a quote by T.D. Jakes, and I kind of modified it for success. It said, success can't be fooled by cheap imitation. Don't try to harvest an opulent life with a dollar store investment in yourself. So that means success can't be fooled, so don't try to go the cheap route to get there.
Right.
There's no shortcut to success. Lasting success anyway. If you want lasting success, you gotta put in the hard work.
Right.
And there's gonna be some late nights, some early mornings. You're gonna lose some sleep. And you gotta make some sacrifices.
Right.
Because when you arrive there, it's all the sweeter because you understood and you respected the process it took to get there, and you respect the goal when you finally get it. Because if it's just handed to you, if it's just a handout, you're not going to respect it because it doesn't mean anything to you. You didn't have to put in the work to get it.
Right.
So you're not going to respect it.
Exactly. You say with the hard work, because on that journey sometimes you wonder if you should be doing it. If it's ever, like you were saying earlier, is it ever going to be complete and all these things. And then, like you say, at the end result, now you are able to look back and see all those things you went through to get to this point. And so, that's why I had to have you on the show today. I hope everyone enjoyed his testimony.
Yes.
Once again, I wanted to give you his background on what he went through to get here. You just look at some people just kind of look at like, okay, he wrote a book. Let's talk about him and the writing of the book. No, the things happened years and years before this that got you to this point that you are an author. And so everybody at home, you need to see that, this is not just him writing a book. This is the man he's become, the different things he went through step by step to get to this point. And once again, this is still a journey that he is on. And so that's why he is just start walking and you get there. So this is going from glory to glory to glory, from achievement to the next achievement, from one level to the next level. So it never stops. It never stops. But once again, the mindset is you have to start walking before you can get there. So I hope everyone enjoyed this show. Before we sign off, could you give everybody all your different places where they can find your information and everything?
You can find me on Facebook at Sean Brasfield. That's SeanBrasfield. And you can find me on Instagram at Sean Sean_speaks SPEAKS, because I'm also a youth motivational speaker. And so yeah, you can find me on either of those two platforms. And the book will likely be out probably around April. I'm looking to do an April release, so that's the goal.
Okay, well, so once I find out everything, I will come back to you all and find out the release date, and we'll have them back on after the book comes out to see how things are faring within that, and how he feels to be a published author at that time and everything. So this is Carrie Bragg signing off with my guest, Sean Brasfield. And remember, always keep moving with meaning. So you all take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for coming out, brother. Appreciate it, sir.